morning and welcome to Love Every Moment, coming to you today from New York City, New York. Today's verse is Titus 1:10. For there are many rebellious men, empty talkers, and deceivers, especially those of the circumcision. Now this comes in the section of qualifications for an elder, and in last week's verse, the link up here, talked about how important it is that an elder be very grounded in the word so that he can encourage those who are on the right scriptural path and rebuke those who are on the wrong non-scriptural path and bring them back to the right path. Let's look at an example of this in Revelation, where Jesus writes some letters to certain churches. In Revelation 2, Jesus is writing to the church of Ephesus, and he rebukes them for letting their love go cold. But he does say in verse 6, "Yet this you do have, that you hate the deeds of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate." So this church is at least in agreement with Jesus in regards to whatever this thing about the Nicolaitans is. But hold that thought. Then a little bit later, he writes to the church of Pergamum. In verse 15, he does rebuke this church by saying, "So you also have some who in the same way hold the teaching of the Nicolaitans." And remember, Jesus hates the deeds of the Nicolaitans, the teachings of the Nicolaitans. So whatever this is, there's one church that is holding to this teaching and another church that is rejecting this teaching. And the one that is rejecting is right, because that's what Jesus is doing, is rejecting that teaching. Again, whatever this is, it's why we need wise leaders who can steer us away from the latest fads of the Nicolaitans or whatever might come down the pike, because there's something new all the time coming down. Now back to our main verse. It says, "For there are many rebellious men, empty talkers, deceivers." There is a devil. He deceives. He just wants to get us off track. Again, an elder will keep us on track. But I'm fixated by this word many. There are many rebellious men. It reminds me of what I consider the worst scripture in all the Bible, Matthew 7:21 through 23, which we covered way back here. It says, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven will enter. Many will say to me on that day, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name cast out demons, and in your name perform many miracles?' And then I will declare to them, 'I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness,'" basically not being scriptural. Okay, so that's really something. There's going to be many people who think they're Christians, and it turns out they're not. They even did Christian acts, right? They even cast out demons, but they didn't know Jesus. So important. That's really sobering. Again, we need elders to keep us on the right track. Now, also in Matthew 7, you have verse 13 and 14, which we cover way over here, that talked about we need to enter by the narrow gate, because wide is the gate, broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many that take that path. There's a lot of people going down the wrong path. Now, how do we know what the right path is? Well, if you're a young Christian, you can look at Matthew 7:15 through 20, which basically says you'll know them by their fruits. If someone is proposing some new interesting doctrine, whatever it might be, look at their lives. If they're showing love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance, and those really spirit-driven fruits, then you'll know that probably is of the Lord. Otherwise, an elder is the one that will look at the doctrine and see if it really matches up with Scripture. Finally, back to our main verse, it says, "There are many rebellious men, empty talkers, deceivers, especially those of the circumcision." These were the traditionalist Jews who were holding on to the Jewish traditions, such as circumcision, kosher laws, Sabbath keeping, and such like that. These were the legalists, and they were imposing this legalism on the church, and that's also wrong. We need leaders to gently get us to obey the Lord out of love, not out of some sort of legalism. And if you got an elder doing that, why don't you thank him? That'd be a lovely thing. Let's choose to love every moment, because then we're going to love every moment. I'm your average wretch, and I hope you have a good week.